Well, hi YouTubers, okay, I'm about to feed these 500 books. I've got 4 to do. I'm doing one after the other. I'm loading over the next 4 days. Starting hot weather, honestly, it's stuffing. I've got water. I've got editing, so I have to stop and have a drink, so forgive me for that. I've got like over 11 to actually review. I got to the end of the month to get to the 100, and it's kind of on track. So, but let me start. Our Endless Number of Days by Claire Fuller. Okay. Every parent lies, but some lies are bigger than others. Peggy is 8 years old when her father takes her to live in a cabin in a remote European forest. Day tells her that her mother and the rest of the world are gone. Now the two of them must scratch a living from the earth, trapping squirrels, foraging for berries, surviving winter as best as they can. But it's easy to lose yourself in the forest, to lose your way. How long will Peggy believe her father's story? How long can you stay sane, you go, when the world is lost? And what happens when you stop believing in everything? And this is a debut novel, and congratulations to Claire Fuller. It came out a few years ago, so I got no hesitation, okay? Claire is actually from Winchester. Here you go. I want to read this out, okay? Yeah. She stopped writing until she was 40. There's hope for me, okay, first of all. Gained a degree in sculpture from Winchester School of Art. Has an MA in creative and critical writing from the University of Winchester. I have a B in English literature from the University of Winchester. And lives in Hampshire. I used to live in Hampshire. Actually used to live in Winchester. That's one of my university city. Lived there for 4 years. So our paths probably could have crossed somewhere along the line. So hi Claire Fuller, I'm Jodie. You know, University alumni of Winchester. Okay. So this is such a good book. Peggy is, her mother is distant. Her mother is a concert pianist who is so indifferent to her daughter. She basically abandons her with her father. The fact is that Peggy never even calls her mother by mother. It's Oot, okay, which is her name. She's way, for her career as a concert pianist, she's a very kind of indifferent mother. She's also the kind of parent who, even though she plays the piano, will not let her child, or children, okay, play on it. Because she's that indifferent. She's got no desire to teach her children her skill, her craft. She's abandoned with her father, who basically takes her out of school and teaches her survival skills. Our father is part of a survivalist kind of group, and they sit around talking about the end of the world and destruction. And it is kind of interesting because this is from Peggy's point of view. But it starts at the age of 8 years old. She's a very, very unreliable narrator in some respects. And it is absolutely incredible. Like this bit here, okay? This, alright? When the work on the fallout shelter was coming to an end, my father put me into training. Started as a game to him. Went a shelf to his friend. My father bought a silver whistle which he hung around his neck on a length of string, and he bought me a canvas rucksack with leather straps and buckles. Inside pockets were embroidered with blue leathers and green leaves. The signal was 3 short blasts on the whistle, which was sounded from the bottom of the stairs. I would have nothing to do with this either. She stayed in bed with the sheet overhead, or played the piano, propping the top board fully open so the sound reverberated throughout the house. Whistle which could happen at any point before bedtime. My signal to pack the rucksack. Now, that says everything, okay? A mother who is so indifferent to the fact her daughter's being taught survival skills, she just doesn't care. It doesn't care. She doesn't. She's that self-centered, okay? So, her father takes her on this adventure to the German forest, to a forest in Germany, and then tells her that the world is gone. There are the only 2 survivors left. The entire world. It doesn't elaborate or go into detail, but he tells her quite fatly everyone is dead. Okay? And they arrive at the hut. This is it. The hut, said my father, as though he was starting a prayer. I could say nothing. At that moment, with one shoe, my hair still lank from the water, knew even more than when my father smashed a fish head or told me it was dead, or something gone wrong with our holiday. Sat at the cabin with my mouth hanging open. In my imagination it had been a gingerbread house with roses around the door, a veranda rocking chair and smoke puffing from the chimney. Exactly who was there to tend the roses and light the stove hadn't been clear, but even Oliver Hannington, our friend of the father's, would have been better than the tumble-down witch's house that stood before us. That will be their home for the next several years. Now, it is absolutely incredible, the isolation, how Claire Fuller captures the isolation of these 2 characters, but from the perspective of a child. She believes the world is gone. she has to force to survive, and it's just the two of them. That's it. Then there's this location in Germany, and I've been to Germany as people forest there. So it captures the feeling of isolation and also urgency about these two people, especially Peggy, who's growing up in this environment. How Clout really carries a distance of time is so impressive. You get the feeling of, in quite a relatively short book, okay, there's 289 pages, of how time flows. How, in a way, with nothing around her, Peggy, in some way, she's grown up and becoming a young woman, but she's very much in a state of arrested development because she's got no one around her, no one social, just her and her father. And she becomes a very, very unreliable narrator, and it's a tour de force. I mean, the book actually starts with, I read out the chapter, it's Highgate, London, 1985, okay? So, it starts off, the ending, okay, when she's rescued, and it's more about how you get to this journey, okay? So you know that she's saved, but you don't know what happened to her in the meantime, and it is a tour de force to find out why. Because obviously as time goes on, Peggy herself becomes very, very unreliable narrator, because how can you keep your sanity in such an insane situation? And this bit here is further along, okay? For 2 or 3 moons after Christmas, we eked out the smoke and dried food, supplementing them with occasional wildfires. As the stores decreased, each meal was smaller than the previous one, and I was always hungry. Our empty stomachs dragged us out of bed, muscles shivering. Borrowing my father's boots, I would clean the snow from the traps and reset them with clumsy fingers. Once or twice, I came back with a rabbit, which we made last for days. We ate every bit except the fur. We even washed out the intestines and stomachs and boiled them. Chitlins, my father said they were called. When they'd all gone and the pan had been scraped clean, we set the plain water boiled in the same saucepan. My father tried to convince me that there would be some goodness left. Now this is also, you get to understand Peggy's emotional state, but also her father's. Throughout the entire book, he's always been kind of on the edge. You can kind of see him descend into his own madness. And little things, okay, like when he says he's getting belladonna, okay? We know what belladonna is, okay? She doesn't, but we know. It's kind of pushing towards this kind of inevitability, which does reflect in Peggy's emotional state, because then Reuben comes in. This is Reuben. He suddenly appears. Peggy's in her teens. The man was hunkered down under the trees, his head in profile. At first I mistook him for a boulder, not one which had rolled off the mountain in a recent rainstorm, but a rock which had lain in place for years, whilst the undergrowth had grown up around it and its surface had become mottled with orange and green lichen. I froze mid-step. My heart hammering, I watched him with wild eyes, waiting to see his next move before I made mine. He separated the wet grass and ferns like a pair of curtains, and was peering intently forward towards the gap. I longed for this, offered up gifts for it, but now wanted nothing more than to run back to the hut, even though my father's response was likely to include grabbing the axe and hunting the man down, or setting the forest alight to smoke him out. I moved one leg up and backwards, but not before my foot had even touched the ground. The man took his hands from the grass and so deliberately turned his head towards me, as if he'd always known I would be there. Okay, I am going to spoil the ending of this book. Now, my logic is absolutely loved it, but it came out in 2015. It's been 3 years. It's okay too. Okay. This guy Reuben, because in the cabin there's like a kind of mark with the name of the word Reuben on it. Okay. This is suddenly Reuben. Reuben is basically the mature man in this. Reuben is the one who plots her escape. Reuben is the one who seduces her. Reuben is not real. You can see throughout the book how Peggy's father's mental state has deteriorated to so point is confusing Peggy for his wife, to the point where he's taken her to bed. And you can imagine. Yes. Yeah, so it's a very much an incest subtext to this book. And Peggy, her mind in tatters, imagines Reuben as more of a coping mechanism to escape. She projects Reuben, who is not real, but Reuben does mentally what she can't. Peggy's mind has deteriorated to the point where Reuben is her coping mechanism, but in a way her saviour. Right, okay. Yes, that's exactly. And then obviously when Peggy is rescued, she has to go home and meet her brother Oscar, who was born when she wasn't there, and see her mother again. And also, in a way, the indifference of her mother is also still there. Her mother is not really coping well, okay, with a daughter who spent more than almost a decade in the wilderness. She's not coping. She's once again, she's as much as indifferent to her own son Oscar as she was to her daughter. She hasn't grown from this. In a way, Peggy is very, very much a victim of these horrible parents and these horrible circumstances. And this was done at a time because Peggy was rescued in the 80s and this book started in the 70s. There wouldn't have been the kind of mechanism in mind to get the help she needs. She's a lovely, unreliable narrator, which sounds really, really indifferent, weird to say, but this book is a reread bonus because you can see Peggy's deteriorating mental state. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, twisted story. And it's, you know, someone said stylish, charming and sinister. And it's true. It's absolutely true. It's charming and sinister. This exposition of this girl who basically did not have a normal upbringing, suddenly raising herself in a forest with a father in a twisted mental state, and what she has to do to survive is a tour de force. So, yeah, recommending this book. Sorry I spoiled it, but I felt like I had to. But you're absolutely gonna love it. Okay, so sign off here, YouTubers. Congrats to Claire Fuller for her debut novel. Physics 5100 book to sign off. Once again, and bye.